Hi, welcome back to Dr. Introspect TV. I know you just saw me before, but it's still me. I'm here and I'm back again. I'm back. So today I'm going to be talking about Umbrella Academy Season 2. This was highly requested by one of you guys, actually. I hope you comment down below and let me know your thoughts on this analysis. And there were a lot of soft tones in this message. Really soft. Yes, there was killing and stabbing happening here and there, but there was a lot of soft human thing going on. So join me. In the Umbrella Academy, we have those mind-bending storylines that we've come to love. Even more of that in the season 2. Right, so in the season 1, number 5, he could jump from places to places within the same time frame, and then he jumped, he went into a place where he saw the apocalypse, he grew old, he came back, and he came in the body of a young boy, right? Short recap. And in trying to save all of them, he took them to the past, and everyone was kind of scattered across different timelines that would somehow come together at the point in time of the murder of JFK. Everybody was living their lives and going through their own motions, and I think Klaus came at a timeline that was far back than everyone else's, and number 5 arrived last. I don't think the mind bending was too much. It's something I like, so maybe for the average person, not following a sequential storyline might be confusing for them, so I understand that. But for me, it wasn't. Now, as you know, I don't necessarily comment on the cinematography of things. I spend more time talking about the human dynamics and the aspects of learning that I believe they were trying to shed light upon and that we can take away from even as we enjoy the experience. One of the things I got from this was that all of them were trying to search for some kind of resolution, meaning in their journeys. So they all individually went through different journeys, and there were certain lessons they got from them. It seemed as if that they were searching for things that kind of mirrored what they had in their current lives, the lives that we saw them live in season 1, or things that they didn't have in that life. We can see that Vanya is trying to find a place of belonging. So growing up, she didn't really feel like she belonged. She was kind of like isolated, treated like an outcast. Of course, we did learn that she had so much power and they did all that stuff to protect her, but she goes into the past and she's living in a farm. She doesn't even remember anything. Everything is locked away in some part of her memory, and she is trying to, she finds love in this woman and her child, to the point that she's actually trying to run away with them so they could start afresh in a new life. Now the challenge though is, in that time, same-sex marriages were not a thing, and in fact it was practically an abomination to be a lesbian in that time, so it wasn't quite feasible, the kind of thing she was trying to do. Allison finds love with Ray. So it's like the love that she could not have in her present time with her brother. So, she and her brother, number 1, kind of had a thing that could never really be because they were kind of like siblings and stuff. So she is able to marry this man, and they have like a year down on belt in their marriage, and they're fighting a cause which was for like the Black rights movement at that time. So she was doing something, it seemed like she had accomplished something that she had been seeking in her present life that she was not able to. Klaus goes and he finds a cult, and in this cult he's idolized. He's seen his worship like an idol and all of such. Now in Klaus's current life, in a normal day 2019, he's not taken seriously by anyone because he has those substance abuse issues. But here, the Klaus is treated like a king. He has like a palace with green lands and all those things. one is trying to find the love in a father that he could not find in present day 2019. So he is like a fighter in a ring. To him, he found a father that he could not find. Now in number one's storyline, as he goes through his own journey, he actually comes in contact with his dad. The day he arrives, he gets on a bus and he journeys for days to find him, and this man just disregards him and cuts him out. So it just felt like, once again, my dad shuts me out in normal life, and even here in the past he shuts me out as well. That was like the ultimate rejection for him, and he still goes on to try to find a father figure. Number two, the guy with the swords, but he also finds love. In present day, he's like a lone wolf, no love, nothing like that. He tries to find love. So everybody's trying to find something that he didn't have, right? However, we also find that even as they go through this journey, they are repeating old patterns, right? So for those that are very interested in aspects of the subconscious mind and things like that, people are drawn to the familiar. You're subconsciously choosing people that will create those situations for you. And even when you don't, you will somehow find that you self-sabotage. And that is what we saw happening. So even after Allison finds love in Ray, she's not completely honest with him. She doesn't tell him she has powers. And you're wondering, you've been married for 1 year. What kind of love is that? We are trying to establish that for you to have a good, secure, honest relationship that is healthy, there has to be trust, there has to be mutual respect, mutual trust, vulnerability. These are foundations for healthy relationships. And you're wondering, he doesn't really know who you are, so does he really love you? And this is the challenge when you're in a relationship with someone and you haven't really opened up yourself completely. You don't ever really feel like they love you because you don't really know if they know the real you. They never really got to know the real you, so you're always scared that they might leave you. You're in a way creating your own story, and that's what she was doing with Ray. Klaus is still a drunk. He starts drinking again because he can't save this guy that he loves, that he doesn't want to go off to die in war, and that kind of triggers him and sets him off on the spiral, and he is just drinking ridiculously again. So he's repeating the same stuff. Vanya kind of repeats the same thing, because it now seems like we get to find out that Vanya is the reason why the apocalypse happens again. So Vanya is the reason why it happened in 2019, and now they're in the past, and she's gonna be the reason why it happens again, because she blows up the FBI complex, and the Americans think it's the Russians, and the two of them go at it and missiles, and like the world just goes to boom, right? So it's like, even in the past, they are still recreating the same things. What about number one? Number one is rejected by his dad, and he's basically like this child that is seeking the approval of his father. It's a very unhealthy dynamic connection, because it's almost as if number one doesn't really have an identity of his own. He is constantly trying to please his dad. He's constantly trying to see if he can be worthy. Doesn't feel like he's deserving of love. Doesn't feel like he's deserving of anything, because his father has never approved of anything of him. And he's in the past seeking for approval from this guy that is using him. And in some way you might think that it's like his father used him too, right? If you look at their dynamics, I wouldn't call their father, the guy that adopted all of them, a good parent. That's not an example of good parenting. So it's not surprising many of them are having issues with substance abuse and identity and all this stuff going on. So number one really suffered with, it kind of happens too when you're like a first child. You might see some people in families where they're the first children, having to really carry those shoulders, being the first one, taking the hits for all the siblings, seeking that approval, you're just seeking it because you're feeling like, okay, now my father will love me. If I do this now, my father will love me. So he just goes into the ring, and it's like he shuts off his emotions there, and it's simple. I fight, I win, I make the money, the boss is happy, and that's that. But the boss is using him, and in some ways it seems like his father used him as well, because they were a team and he was using them as kids for missions. It's not really parenting. He was kind of using them, so much so that he had to be attached to the body of a gorilla. He was being used and this guy was using him, so the same thing was happening all over again. Those daddy issues were still repeating themselves. Another theme that I picked on was on the significance of vulnerability. So I talked about the importance of vulnerability in your relationship and as such, but just to mention some instances where we saw that, when Allison opened up to Ray and finally told him, I'm from another dimension. Now, when you tell someone something like that, right? You know, maybe you have a child hidden in some other country and you're in love with this man. How can you be sure this man loves you if he doesn't know you have your kid? He cannot accept you with your kid. You know, so you lay this bomb, two things might happen. They might say, yes, I love you and your child is from you, I'm gonna love them too, and that's that. Or they're like, you know what, you hid this from me, I'm never gonna be with you. When you choose to be vulnerable like that with someone, you shouldn't do it with an expectation that they're gonna accept me now. And if they don't accept you, like, oh, you never really know if they're gonna accept you. And it was wonderful to see that Ray accepted her and just took her the way she was. And I feel like that really just made the love that she found in this time zone so beautiful, because this person loved her and accepted her in her totality, loved her in her whole complete being, and was able to let her go, understanding that, look, my work is here in the past and you still have work to do in the world in the future, and I would never trade anything for what we've had. That's how you know healthy love. What they were able to get to is what I think people should strive for, at least. Because he's not in this nobody's ever gonna have you type thing. It's not nobody can ever have you now. He was able to let her go. And that's how you know when you genuinely love someone. You are able to let them go. They are not your possession. You don't own them. You don't tie them up and put them in a cage. If they say this is not working out for me, you're hurt that you're losing them, but there isn't hatred to them. You know, it doesn't go from love to now I hate you and you're leaving me and all that. If it's like that, that's not love. It's something else. It might be infatuation. It might be addiction. It might be, yes, you can be addicted to a person. If you want me to make a video on that, comment down below. Lila and number 2, the guy with the swords guy, he and her develop a relationship. And Lila was raised by that woman that's the handler, and the woman basically just used her as a weapon. That woman was using her as well. That is another aspect of horrible parenting. And now it just looks like a film and, you know, it's fun and whatnot, but that is not healthy parenting. But I'm telling you, in the real world that we're living in, there are people that raise their kids and use their kids like that. More on that in another video coming. But Lila was able to let in the team towards the end. The final episode, she lets them in and they tell her that we can be a family the way we are each other's family. And I thought that was beautiful. Also, remember that Vanya was also treated like an outcast, like an outsider by her family, and she had just shut herself and isolated herself from everyone. But when she was basically exploding in the FBI building and that whole interaction was going on, she had to be vulnerable enough to let Ben in. That was another sign of vulnerability. So Ben goes in and Ben risks his life. Really, really sad. But he risks his life and he urges Vanya to, you know, he helps Vanya. So Vanya's ability to let him in to do what he did was a significant show of vulnerability. And of course, when we see all of the family coming together, getting in the car to help Vanya go and deal with her business with her lover and the lover's child in the countryside, everybody just, that was beautiful. Because that is something Vanya had always wanted. She had always wanted to feel like she belonged somewhere, like you know, someone loved her, someone cared about her, and seeing all her family just rally together to help her was just beautiful. Another theme that I picked up on was the theme of acceptance. So everyone essentially comes to terms with the lessons that they've learned, right? And the person I really want to focus on, because I've discussed in depth about other people, is Vanya. They all had childhood trauma, but it seems as though that Vanya's childhood trauma is probably the greatest, and or maybe it hurts her more than everybody else. And what we were seeing happening in season 2 is something that actually happens to a lot of people. You dissociate from your horrible memory. There are people that have been in accidents, people that have been raped, kind of things, and you just dissociate. So that was what happened. Vanya dissociated from those experiences, and that's why she was not able to remember who she was. And I thought that the way the directors and the writers did in such a way that she was literally eaten into her brain. You know, those kind of subconscious depictions, that was really, really deep, that she had to eat that meal that was brains on the plate in order to get her memories back. And every time she took a piece of it, the memories came back. You know, she didn't want to go in to even sit on the table. She was so afraid. You know, when you see people that have PTSD or complex PTSD, there is so much fear associated with the memory. That's why they dissociate from them. They're so afraid. She is so afraid to come to terms with the thing, who she is as a person. Who she is. I'm this person, I have these powers, these are my memories. Yes, they were hurtful. So I think that what Ben helped her do is something a lot of adults even today in our real lives are struggling with. You're not able to reconcile who you are with your inner child, your memories, your experiences, and make yourself whole again. So Ben essentially helped her heal her inner child. Her inner child was wounded, and there was a lot of pain associated with that, a lot of pain, a lot of anger towards her dad, towards her family, and it's all those anger that actually comes out in that rage that we see her, that she's taking out on the world, and she's like this powerful monster beast type of person. It's anger. And that is actually what a lot of people are struggling with today. Sometimes the anger, the lashing, the rage that people have, that they're taking out on their loved ones, on their co-workers, their employees in their offices, it's these subconscious things down below that just come out like that. It's uncontrollable. And you can see that when things are snapping, when people irritate her, sometimes people make you angry and you react, and it's not them you're reacting to. They're triggering something else deep inside of you that you are reacting to. And until those things inside you are resolved, you're always going to have those kind of spillouts. And it was good to see Ben help her at his own peril, because he had to sacrifice himself. He died completely this time for her. It was really touching that he had to sacrifice himself in this way, and for her to be able to heal her inner child, heal those wounds. And she was able to accept that, yes, I had a horrible childhood, this was horrible. If you want me to make a separate video on how to heal your inner child wounds, just let me know. I'll make those videos down below. Lila, him and her had this bond. He let her in and he actually fell in love with her. This is someone that is a lone wolf, even in his own family. He's just on his own, doing his own thing. I think it's something that kind of happens when a child feels ignored. So number one is doing all the work to try to be the golden child, to try to be recognized by the dad, even though he tries his best and he never gets it. And then number two just feels like number one is doing everything and I'm ignored, so I'm just gonna be on my own, right? So him being able to open up and fall in love with Lila and experience that love in that time zone was beautiful. And it just reminded me of a quote by C.S. Lewis, which I'm gonna put here right now. So the quote says, "To love at all is to be vulnerable." And that is something I really stand by. You cannot say you have really loved someone if you've not been able to be vulnerable with them. And he was able to do that. So that was tremendous growth on his part. Now, I think there were a lot of, just to make some notes on some of the high points in the movie, in the show. This show was very slow. It had a really slow start, and it took me over a week to finish it because it was so slow. Up until episode 4, it was still so slow. There were action things going on, but the storyline was progressing at a really slow pace. It seemed like from episode 6 it picked up and it kind of stayed there, and then it ended on a really high note that just made you feel like you felt in season 1, like, oh my god, when is season 3 coming out, you know? So that was really how I felt about it. Some epic things to mention. Number 5 going head to head with himself was just really cool. You know, it was really cool because number 5 is like the intellectual person. If you're a fan of MBTI, some people might think he's an INTJ or maybe an ENTJ even. Let me know what you think number 5's type is down below. And see him going to battle with yourself, you know, like that's really something, because you know yourself, you know your moves, you know how you think, you know everything, outsmarting yourself. That was really cool. Let me know what you think about that down below. I really liked the whole time travel thing. I'm a big fan of time travel and parallel universes and all those kind of things. And I don't know if there's a rule, like is there a book on how it works? Let me know. I'd like to read it out. But it seems like in movies the theories are often the same. Like you and your other self cannot be in the same place at the same time. Something will happen, you'll mess up the timeline, all that kind of stuff. Another cool thing was the epic showdown fight. How Lila is able to absorb people's energy and bring it back even better. Whatever you can do, she can do, and she can do better. Girl, I was like, okay, this is officially the best, you know. Like number 5 used to be my favorite, then followed by Vanya, I think, but I always take head over brute. You know, I'm mind over brute anytime, any day. But Lila is really intelligent, so it's like she has that mind thing, and then she's able to absorb everybody's thing and just bring it back in a, it's like a third law of Newton going on, you know, action, reaction, equal and opposite. Like, whoo, it was so good. That was cool. That was finally how number 5 was able to master that he doesn't have to jump in such large increments. A second, 1 second, 1 minute can change everything. And when the dad said that to him, you're pushing yourself too far. That perhaps it's not a year or years ahead type of thing you should be thinking. Maybe you should think about minutes. Maybe you should think about seconds. Now, I don't want to say that I am a foreseer of things, but I have seen so many storylines play out that when I watch movies, I literally know how they're going to progress or end. If you're like me, comment down below if you knew it would end the way it would end. When the father made that statement, I knew that it would be a minute difference, a second difference that would change everything. So I knew he wasn't gonna die. I knew all of them wouldn't die. I knew he would reverse time just in time to let her die and deal with all of that, and then, you know, be able to save his team. Then I also knew that the timeline would be messed up somehow. So if you are a predictor of movies like me, what did you think would happen to the present day timeline when they got back? Because when they got back, they were not the kids that were abducted anymore. A different set of kids were adopted, and they were now called the Sparrows. What a name, right? And Ben happened to be one of those kids. So when you thought the timeline would be messed up, did you in any way think that that would happen? I'm also wondering if I was also wondering if their dad would remember, and he did. He remembered, because when they came back, he was like, I was waiting for you. So he had met them before in the past, and I wonder if that in any way triggered anything, if it changed the choices he made, and it did. Obviously, he ended up with different sets of children, but that was my final note, really. As interesting as the story was, I feel like the main takeaways are just very clear on the importance and significance of vulnerability, how you can learn from the past, and how we are often drawn to the familiar and the things we know, and how to break that pattern. Because obviously they all noticed it and they broke it. I just want to say that I'm happy that Ben was able to get into Klaus's body and live life and experience it one time before he died. So I had a feeling that Ben was gonna die, so I wasn't surprised when he died, because there's a way they write stories. I don't know if you other people get this vibe, but when you're watching it and there's this type of happiness someone is having, it's like you know that you're gonna die soon, you know. But in real life, I don't think it happens that way. But people that write stories have a way of writing that in, that there are goodbyes that people have or experiences that people have, and you just know that you're gonna die in this movie. And I got that vibe. With that being said, that's the end of my human dynamic analysis of the Umbrella Academy. If you have any questions on maybe the storyline or other things, or the things I spoke about, just let me know in the video, in the comment section down below. Of course, if there are other suggestions for videos, movies, or books you want me to make some commentary on, just let me know, as this was recommended by a viewer. Thank you for this recommendation, by the way. With that being said, I'm gonna leave you, and I'll see you in my next one. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I keep getting messages that people don't know when I post. Click on the notification bell and you will be notified every time I post a video. All right, I'll see you in my next one. Bye.